Welcome, fellow adventurers. Get ready to embark on a thrilling ride to the stars. This isn't just another sci-fi adventure. It's packed with romance, intrigue, and unexpected twists that will keep you hooked. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming journeys. Now let's dive into the unknown and explore the vastness of space together. The planet Zinthar 9 stood under the blazing gaze of two massive twin suns, casting a fiery light across the alien world. The sky shimmered with vibrant shades of purple and gold, like an ever-changing canvas. Strange, bioluminescent plants dotted the arid plains, their glowing tendrils reaching toward the sky as if trying to touch the suns themselves. Towering trees with skeletal branches swayed in the hot breeze, their bark smooth and marble-like, making the landscape feel otherworldly and surreal. In the distance, grand city-sized spires made of glass and metal rose from the sand. Their design was a beautiful mix of sharp angles and flowing curves, a symbol of the Zintharian civilization's advanced technology. Alien ships hovered gracefully in the sky, their sleek bodies gliding through the air with ease, filling the atmosphere with a faint hum. The planet was a sight to behold, and Marcus couldn't help but take in the beauty of it all. But despite the awe-inspiring scenery, he wasn't here to admire the view. No, his mission was much more complicated. As the first human to set foot on Zinthar 9, Marcus had a responsibility. A curse had been placed on the Zintharians, silencing their leaders and rendering their voices a mere whisper for centuries. And now it was Marcus's job to break that curse, to restore their lost power. Standing at the base of a massive structure, Marcus felt his heart race with a mix of excitement and nervousness. He was a simple man, tall and athletic with dark hair tied into a messy bun. He had always dreamed of adventure, but now that he was here, on an alien planet, the weight of it all hit him. The collar of his spacesuit felt tight around his neck as he tried to calm his racing thoughts. This wasn't just about breaking a curse, it was about becoming part of something much bigger than himself. The pressure weighed heavily on his shoulders, but he couldn't turn back now. He had been chosen for this mission, and the fate of an entire civilization rested in his hands. As he gazed at the strange city before him, he felt a sense of awe, but also a gnawing uncertainty. What was he walking into? Who were these people? And what had this curse done to them? The first Zintharian Marcus encountered wasn't at all what he expected. The creature before him was tall and slender, its shimmering skin a brilliant shade of liquid silver. Its large, glowing amber eyes studied Marcus with a mix of curiosity and something else, something he couldn't quite decipher. The Zintharian's smooth, featureless face gave little away, but Marcus sensed its intelligence, its power. Human, the alien spoke, its voice a harmonious blend of deep bass and high-pitched tones. You come to break the silence? Marcus paused, unsure of how to respond. This wasn't what he had imagined. The Zintharians, though elegant, were far more mysterious than he had anticipated. The silence surrounding them felt heavy, almost suffocating. Before he could speak, a low hum filled the air, followed by a deep rumble. The ground beneath his feet vibrated, and Marcus's eyes darted around, trying to locate the source of the noise. Just as Marcus turned to face the approaching sound, something enormous blotted out the sun. A massive shadow loomed above him, casting the city in an eerie twilight. The ground trembled beneath his feet as the shape grew larger, moving toward them with a slow, deliberate pace. Marcus turned to Jara, the alien woman standing beside him. Her violet skin glowed in the dimming light, her golden eyes shining with a mixture of amusement and mystery. "Well, Marcus," Jara said, her grin playful, "it seems your introduction is going to be more exciting than we planned." Marcus swallowed hard, his heart racing. What is that?" he asked, his voice a mix of awe and fear. Jara's smile widened. "You'll see soon enough. Stay close." And with that, the shadow drew closer, and the mystery of what was approaching left Marcus with a sinking feeling in his chest. The creature that descended from the sky was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. It was huge, towering over him with 4 muscular arms that flexed as it landed smoothly on the ground. Its skin shone like gold in the sunlight, its large amber eyes glowing with an intensity that Marcus couldn't quite comprehend. When it spoke, its voice was deep and resonant, a mix of low bass tones and high-pitched musical notes that vibrated in the air. "You are the one called Marcus," the creature rumbled, its piercing gaze fixed firmly on him. Jara, standing beside Marcus, showed no fear or surprise at the imposing figure. Her face was unreadable, and she didn't flinch as the creature's presence loomed over them. "This is Malik, the leader of the Zinthar 5 Council. He's been waiting for you," she said calmly. Marcus felt his throat go dry. The sheer size of the alien leader and the deep voice only made him feel more out of place. He swallowed, trying to maintain his composure. Hi, I'm Marcus. Pleased to meet you," he stammered, instinctively offering his hand. Malik stared at Marcus's outstretched hand, his amber eyes shifting between Marcus and Jara. It was clear that the gesture confused him. Marcus realized too late that maybe the handshake wasn't the best idea. Jara's voice broke the awkward silence as she spoke to Malik. "Malik, don't mind him. Humans like to shake hands. It's a thing they do," she explained, a hint of amusement in her tone. Malik blinked slowly, and then, after a moment of hesitation, extended one of his 4 massive arms toward Marcus. As Marcus tried to shake it, he felt minuscule in comparison. The sheer size of Malik's arm made his own hand seem tiny and insignificant. The surrounding Zintharians chuckled softly, their laughter light, and Marcus felt his face redden with embarrassment. "That's not how we greet each other," Malik said, his voice tinged with amusement. "But we will allow you this curiosity." Marcus rubbed the back of his neck, feeling like an idiot. "Yeah, sorry. I'll try to do better next time," he muttered, still uncomfortable with the misunderstanding. Despite the awkwardness of their first interaction, Malik's expression softened as he observed Marcus. His deep voice now carried a note of curiosity. "Tell me, Marcus," he began, "what is it like to speak freely, to have your voice unbound?" Marcus was about to respond when Jara stepped forward, cutting him off before he could say anything. "What Malik means is, we've been silenced for too long. We've lost the ability to connect with each other," she explained, her voice low but firm. Marcus's eyebrows furrowed in confusion. How long has it been like that?" he asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Jara's gaze softened, and she looked at Marcus with a vulnerability that was unexpected. "Centuries," she replied quietly. "The curse isn't just about a lack of speech, it's a disconnection. We've forgotten what it means to truly communicate with one another." Marcus stood still, trying to process the weight of her words. He had never thought about the implications of not being able to speak, to be cut off from the world around him. The idea of a civilization unable to express itself, unable to share thoughts and feelings, seemed impossible. But now, seeing the pain in Jara's eyes, it felt all too real. "I can help you," Marcus said slowly, unsure of how to phrase it, but feeling the weight of the hope he saw in Jara's eyes. "I don't know how, but I'll try. I'll help break the curse." Before Jara could respond, the ground beneath them trembled once more. This time, it wasn't just the sky darkening. It felt as if the very air around them had thickened, as if something was coming, something ominous and powerful. Marcus's heart raced as a strange feeling washed over him, a sense of impending danger. Jara's face shifted from calm to serious in an instant, her golden eyes narrowing with determination. She grabbed Marcus's arm firmly. "We need to leave. Now," she said urgently, her voice cutting through the tension in the air. "Wait, what's happening?" Marcus asked, his pulse quickening. Jara didn't answer right away. She simply pulled him toward a nearby transport, her grip tightening around his arm. "Trust me," she said with quiet urgency. Without another word, they rushed toward the transport. The door slammed shut behind them with a hiss, and the city of Zinthar 5 seemed to hold its breath as they sped off into the unknown. As Marcus looked out of the window, he couldn't shake the feeling that the real adventure was only just beginning. Something was coming, something far bigger than he ever expected. The transport sped through the winding streets of Zinthar 5, the city blurring past in a streak of lights and colors. Marcus sat next to Jara, her grip steady on his arm. The air was thick with a sense of urgency, but it was her touch that made him feel grounded. Her golden eyes, usually so calm and composed, now flickered with a hint of concern. Marcus noticed the subtle shift in her demeanor after the confrontation with Malik, a change that had him questioning not just the situation, but their connection. The transport came to a halt in front of a massive stone building. Jara slowly released her grip on his arm, but the warmth of her touch lingered with him. Marcus wasn't sure when it had happened, but somewhere between the danger they'd faced and the quiet moments shared, something had shifted. What had started as a mission now felt far more personal than he had expected. There was a bond growing between them, one that neither of them could deny. "Come," Jara said softly, her voice more serious now. "We'll be safer inside." Marcus followed her into the building, his mind racing with 1,000 questions. "What's going on, Jara?" he asked, unable to contain his curiosity. "What was that all about with Malik?" Jara stopped just inside the doorway, her gaze momentarily dropping to the floor. When she spoke again, her voice was quiet, almost hesitant. "It's complicated," she admitted. "Malik doesn't want the prophecy to succeed. He's too set in his ways, too afraid of what change might bring. He spent centuries ruling in silence, and the thought of losing that power terrifies him." Marcus felt the weight of her words sink in. "But you believe in the prophecy, don't you? That it can break the curse?" Jara's eyes met his, her expression softening. "I do," she said, stepping a little closer, "but I'm afraid of what might happen if it doesn't work, afraid of what it means for me, for my people." Marcus reached out without thinking, placing a reassuring hand on her arm. "You're not alone in this," he said, his voice steady and sincere. "Whatever happens, we're in this together." Jara looked up at him, her golden eyes searching his face. For a moment she didn't say anything. Then, softly, she replied, "I know, and that means more to me than you realize." As they continued walking through the building, Jara led Marcus into a series of chambers filled with strange alien artifacts, floating holographic maps, shimmering crystals, and intricately carved stones. The air smelled faintly of incense, and the soft hum of technology echoed from the walls. Marcus couldn't help but be in awe of the place. It was both ancient and futuristic, a strange blend of the old and the new. "I never imagined a place like this," Marcus said, his voice full of wonder as he examined a glowing artifact. "It's incredible, so advanced yet so ancient." Jara smirked, amused by his amazement. "We are old, Marcus, older than you can imagine, but we have our ways, our customs. Some of them are hard to understand even for us." Marcus chuckled. "Like the whole silent ruler thing?" Jara laughed lightly, her usual composure returning for a moment. "Exactly. It's hard to explain, but it's part of our culture. We were silenced by the curse, but we also chose to stay silent. Some believe it's a form of strength. Others, like Malik, fear what might happen if we break it." Marcus raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "And what about you? What do you believe?" Jara's smile softened, and her eyes flickered with a trace of uncertainty. "I believe in change, in breaking the silence, in finding our voices again. But I'm afraid of what that might mean, what it might cost." Marcus felt a tug at his heart. She wasn't just talking about the curse. She was talking about something much deeper, something more personal. Her fear wasn't just about her people. It was about her, too. The weight of the responsibility she carried was starting to sink in for him. Just as Marcus was about to speak, a strange noise filled the room, a low, vibrating hum that seemed to come from deep within the building. Jara's eyes snapped to attention, and her body tensed. "We need to move," she said urgently, her voice barely above a whisper. "Something is happening. Something I can't explain." Marcus's heart raced as Jara grabbed his arm, pulling him toward a hidden door in the back of the chamber. The sound of the hum intensified as they moved quickly through a narrow corridor, the walls growing colder and the air heavier with each step. "What's happening, Jara?" Marcus asked, his voice thick with unease. Jara didn't answer immediately. She kept her eyes focused ahead, her expression unreadable. "I'm not sure," she said, her voice laced with tension. "But we need to get to the prophecy chamber before it's too late." Marcus followed her, his mind spinning with questions. What was happening on this planet? Why had Jara's usual calm been replaced with such urgency? And why did he feel like everything was unraveling around them? As they rounded the final corner, Marcus saw the entrance to a large, circular room. The door was slightly cracked open, and a faint blue glow emanated from within. Jara's pace quickened, and she reached for the door with trembling hands. Before she could open it fully, a loud mechanical hiss filled the air, followed by a deep, rumbling vibration that made the ground beneath them tremble. The lights flickered, and the entire building seemed to come alive, as if something massive was about to unfold. "Jara?" Marcus called, his voice echoing in the sudden darkness. There was no answer. The silence that followed was oppressive, leaving Marcus's heart pounding in his chest. Then from the shadows, a figure stepped forward, tall, ominous, and unlike anything he had ever expected. His breath caught in his throat as the figure emerged fully from the shadows. It was someone he had never imagined would be here, someone he hadn't expected to see at all. The figure that emerged from the shadows was none other than Malik, the same towering alien who had first greeted Marcus upon his arrival on Zinthar 5. But now, there was something entirely different about him. His eyes, once calm and full of wisdom, now burned with a dark, hostile intensity. His golden skin shimmered unnaturally in the dim light, and his imposing stature seemed to grow even larger as he stepped forward. The calm leader Marcus had initially met had vanished, replaced by someone who radiated danger and anger. "You shouldn't have come here, Marcus," Malik's voice growled from deep within his chest, echoing through the darkened chamber. The tone was far colder, filled with contempt and malice. "You've made a grave mistake." Marcus's heart pounded in his chest, his pulse quickening. He instinctively stepped forward, trying to stand his ground, despite the unease that was starting to creep up his spine. "What do you want, Malik?" he demanded, doing his best to sound confident. Jara stood motionless beside him, her expression unreadable. She didn't make a move to defend him or even acknowledge Malik's presence directly. Her golden eyes were fixed on the ground, as if she were processing something she hadn't yet shared. The silence between them stretched, thick with tension. "This prophecy you've been chasing," Malik continued, his voice dripping with venom. "It's a lie, a trap designed to destroy you." The room seemed to grow colder with each word. Malik spoke. The air itself felt heavier, as though the entire chamber was holding its breath. From the shadows, several other council members emerged, their faces drawn tight with concern and fear. It was clear that there was no unity in the council anymore. Some faces were familiar, but now their expressions were grim, their uncertainty palpable. Others looked hesitant, casting fleeting glances between Malik and Jara, unsure which side to take. One council member, a tall alien with delicate, flowing antennae, stepped forward from the crowd. The alien's voice trembled, betraying a hint of fear. "Malik, this is not what we agreed upon," the alien said, his words heavy with reluctance. "We can't stop the prophecy now. It's too late." Malik's sharp gaze snapped toward the dissenting council member, his body stiffening in anger. The air seemed to crackle with an almost tangible energy. "I'm not asking for your opinion," Malik snapped, his voice low but filled with authority. "I'm taking control." The divide among the council was clear now. There were those who still feared the prophecy and wanted to stop it, and there were those like Jara who believed it was the only hope for their people. The situation was more complicated than Marcus had ever imagined. As the confrontation between Malik and the council escalated, Marcus couldn't help but notice how close Jara stood beside him. Her presence was a steadying force, but there was also something incredibly intense about the way she was standing next to him. The connection between them had always been there, but in this moment, it felt stronger than ever before. Marcus could feel her heartbeat racing in sync with his own, the warmth of her body beside him grounding him in the midst of the chaos. They were on the brink of something huge, something that could change everything, but in that moment, all he could focus on was her. Jara's eyes met his, and in that brief glance, everything she needed to say was conveyed silently. They were in this together. No matter how impossible the situation seemed, they would face it side by side. Marcus's heart surged, and without thinking, he placed a hand on her arm. "We'll figure this out," he said, his voice filled with determination. "We have to." For a moment, Jara's gaze softened. She turned toward him, and her lips parted as if to say something, but the moment was quickly interrupted by a sudden shift in the room. Her eyes narrowed, the golden glow in them hardening with resolve. "We do this together," she said, her voice quiet but firm. As the council continued to argue in the background, Marcus and Jara shared a quiet moment, standing close together. Their fingers brushed lightly as they stood side by side, but the peaceful connection was shattered by a sharp crackle of energy that filled the air. The tension in the room thickened as the lights flickered once again, plunging the space into a momentary darkness. A mechanical roar reverberated from deep within the chamber, shaking the walls and sending a jolt through the ground beneath them. Marcus's heart raced in his chest, his eyes wide with fear and confusion. "What's happening now?" he asked, his voice barely audible over the rising sound of whatever was coming. Jara didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached for his hand, her grip firm and steady. Her golden eyes gleamed with a sense of urgency, but also with a quiet, unspoken resolve. "Stay close," she said, her voice urgent. "We're not done yet." Before Marcus could respond, the roar grew louder, and the ground trembled beneath them. The silence that followed felt heavier than before, and the chamber seemed to hold its breath. The door to the room creaked open, revealing the darkened space beyond, and as the lights flickered back to life, Marcus's breath caught in his throat as a shadowy figure emerged from the depths of the chamber. This figure wasn't just any council member. This was someone he had never expected to see, someone who would change everything. A chill ran down Marcus's spine as the figure stepped forward, their presence filling the room with an ominous weight. This was it, the moment that would alter everything, and Marcus had no idea what was coming. Next, the roars of the unseen creature grew louder, echoing through the chamber like a distant storm. Panic spread rapidly among the council members as they scrambled to prepare for the unknown threat that was bearing down on them. The tension was suffocating, each alien looking more fearful than the last. Marcus and Jara exchanged a brief but meaningful look, the uncertainty in their eyes matching the weight of the situation. "We need to get to the prophecy chamber," Jara said urgently, her voice cutting through the chaos. There was a fire. In her gaze, a determination that Marcus hadn't seen before. "It's our only chance," Marcus nodded quickly, his mind racing. But Malik! He knew that Malik's actions had already jeopardized the prophecy, but there was no time to deal with him now. They had a bigger problem. Jara didn't hesitate. "We don't have time for him," she snapped, grabbing his hand and pulling him toward the chamber. Her grip was firm and urgent. Malik's not the threat right now. That creature is. The sound of the creature's roars grew louder still, and Marcus's heart pounded in his chest. They had no time to lose. He had to trust Jara. She knew what they needed to do. As they ran toward the prophecy chamber, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just about saving Zinthar 5 or breaking the curse anymore. It was personal. It was about Jara, about proving to her and to himself that he wasn't just an outsider in this world. He had become part of something much bigger, and he wasn't going to let her face the coming storm alone. "I'm not going to let you face this alone," Marcus said firmly, his voice steady despite the racing of his heart. He had come too far, and there was no turning back now. Jara's golden eyes softened as she glanced at him, her expression melting for a split second before she turned back toward the chamber. "Thank you, Marcus," she said quietly, her voice filled with gratitude. "I've never had someone stand by me like this." For that brief moment, the chaos around them faded into the background. It was just the two of them, facing an unknown danger, but together. The weight of their shared purpose, of their connection, was stronger than ever. It was a bond that had grown through every challenge they had faced, every shared glance, every word unspoken. Marcus's heart surged with a mix of emotions. He had only just begun to understand the depth of what was at stake, not just for Zinthar 5, but for him and Jara. This was more than a mission. This was their fight, and he wouldn't back down now. Just as they neared the prophecy chamber, the ground beneath them trembled violently. The walls shook, and the air crackled with energy. The ceiling above them cracked open with a thunderous sound, and a flood of bright, blinding light erupted from the cracks, filling the room with an overwhelming glow. Marcus raised his hand to shield his eyes, but the light was so intense he felt like it was burning through him. "Get down!" Jara shouted, her voice urgent as she grabbed Marcus and pulled him to the ground. The moment they hit the floor, debris began raining down from above, large chunks of stone and metal falling around them, crashing onto the floor with deafening crashes. The chaos was overwhelming. The air was thick with dust, and the sound of falling debris filled Marcus's ears. He could barely see through the haze of light and smoke, but Jara's presence beside him was a constant. Her grip on his arm was the only thing keeping him tethered to reality. "Stay low," Jara whispered through the dust, her voice firm and commanding. "We need to move fast." Marcus nodded, his heart racing, adrenaline flooding his system. He had no idea what was coming, but he knew one thing for sure. They had to make it to the prophecy chamber. Through the haze of dust and light, a massive shadow began to emerge. At first, it was only a shape, but as it grew closer, its form took shape. A colossal figure that towered over them, its features dark and menacing. The creature's eyes glowed with an eerie intensity, and its roar rattled the walls of the chamber. Marcus's eyes widened in shock as the creature took its first step toward them, its body larger than anything he had ever seen. It moved with an unsettling grace, its presence filling the chamber, its power undeniable. "This is it," Jara whispered, her voice barely audible over the roar of the creature. Her face was pale, but her eyes burned with resolve. "We either win, or everything ends." The creature's roar grew louder, the sound reverberating in Marcus's chest. It was like the very air was vibrating with its fury, and he knew that there was no going back now. The battle for Zinthar 5 was about to begin, and Marcus had no idea if he was strong enough to face what was coming. The creature's shadow loomed over them, and the light from its eyes glowed brighter, casting everything in a terrifying glow. The room seemed to freeze for a moment, and Marcus could feel his heart beating in his throat. He didn't know if they would survive this, but he knew one thing for sure. This was the moment that would decide everything. As the creature stepped closer, Marcus felt a surge of determination rise within him. He wasn't going to let Jara, or this world, fall to this beast. Whatever it took, he would fight. The battle was fierce, and Marcus could feel the adrenaline pumping through his veins as he stood beside Jara. Every strike, every dodge brought them closer to victory. The creature that had emerged from the cracks in the prophecy chamber was unlike anything Marcus had ever faced. Its massive size, its terrifying presence, and the power it commanded were almost overwhelming. But with Jara by his side, the fight felt a little less impossible. Her strength, her resolve, her unwavering determination were the pillars that kept him fighting. Together, they had managed to defeat the beast, but the cost was high. The creature let out a final, deafening roar before it collapsed, its body dissipating into dust. The chamber was still and silent for a moment, but that silence was different from the one that had haunted Zinthar 5 for centuries. It was the silence of a battle fought and won. As Marcus caught his breath, he glanced over at Jara. Her golden eyes were filled with a mix of exhaustion and relief. She had done it. She had broken the curse. The power that had bound the planet, in silence for so long, had been shattered, and with it, the Zintharians were finally free. Malik, the once powerful leader of the council, now lay defeated on the ground. His eyes were filled with bitterness, but there was no denying that the prophecy had come true. Jara stood tall, her head held high, as the other council members, those who had followed Malik, now looked to her. The change had come, and it was clear that Jara was the leader they had been waiting for. As the battle ended, the atmosphere shifted. The air was still, the once oppressive silence now replaced with the hum of anticipation. The twin moons rose high in the sky, their light bathing the planet in a soft, calming glow. The people of Zinthar 5 gathered to celebrate their newfound freedom, their voices finally free to speak again. For the first time in centuries, the sound of laughter, songs, and cheers filled the air. Marcus stood beside Jara as the people cheered, their faces radiant with joy. The ceremony was simple but filled with meaning. It wasn't just about Jara breaking the curse. It was about the unity between Earth and Zinthar 5. It was about the connection they had forged through shared struggle and victory. The bond between the two worlds was now stronger than ever, symbolized by Marcus and Jara standing together at the center of the celebration. As the crowd continued to cheer, Jara turned to Marcus, a smile playing at the corners of her lips. "This is only the beginning, Marcus, for both of us." Later that night, Marcus and Jara walked side by side through the quiet gardens of Zinthar 5. The air was cool, the stars above shining brighter than ever before. As they strolled, their footsteps the only sound in the peaceful night, Marcus couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder. The journey had been full of challenges, surprises, and moments of doubt. But now, standing on this alien world, with Jara by his side, he felt like anything was possible. "I didn't expect any of this," Marcus whispered, his voice filled with awe. "When I first came here, I thought I was just here to break a curse. I didn't expect this." Jara smiled softly, her golden eyes reflecting the glow of the twin moons above them. "None of us did. But sometimes, the most unexpected journeys lead us to where we truly belong." Marcus's heart swelled with emotion. "I never thought I'd find a place like this, a place where I'm not just an outsider, where I can make a difference." Jara reached out, her hand brushing against his. "You've already made a difference, Marcus, and you're not leaving unless you want to." Her words felt like a promise, and Marcus knew in that moment that he wasn't going anywhere. This planet, this world, this adventure, it was his, now just as much as it was Jara's. As they continued walking toward the horizon, the stars above them seemed to hold 1,000 promises of new challenges, new adventures, and new possibilities. The journey they had started was far from over, and Marcus knew there were still many unknowns ahead. But with Jara by his side, he was ready to face whatever came next. "We've just begun, Earthling," Jara whispered, her voice full of quiet confidence. Marcus grinned, feeling the weight of her words settle in his chest. "Then let's make it count." And as they walked hand in hand toward whatever awaited them, the stars above them seemed to glow a little brighter, as if the universe itself were watching, waiting for the next chapter in their story.